Now, I'm a very lucky, proud owner of a Crador H2, my grail watch, and once perhaps misguidedly dubbed exit watch. But would I trade it for this Grand Seiko SBGZ011 that debuted at Watches and Wonders 2026? When we visited Grand Seiko at Watches and Wonders this year, of course, the Ushio Diver was the star of the show. But if I could have walked out of the room with one watch on my wrist, it would have definitely been this Grand Seiko SBGZ011. As someone far down the Grand Seiko rabbit hole repeatedly called Time+Tide's resident Seiko file in each YouTube review I host for any Seiko or Grand Seiko watch, the Grand Seiko catalog and its expansive price range is something I completely understand. However, I can appreciate those who have not spent years following the brand, memorizing reference numbers by heart, and have yet to learn that Zaratsu polishing is not a samurai sword polishing technique, may struggle to understand how something branded Seiko, even bundled with the word grand, could command prices anywhere from $2,600 to $400,000. When introducing people to Grand Seiko, of course, staples like the SBGA211 Snowflake, SBGA413 Shunbun, and SLGH005 White Birch are go-to models to shout out. But when it comes to showing just how grand and premium the brand's offerings can get, showcasing the pinnacle of its watchmaking mastery, it is micro artist studio creations like this SBGZ011 Majestic Waterfall that really make it crystal clear. Now, this is not the first time we've seen a platinum Grand Seiko Masterpiece model with an engraved case, even one where the pattern extends fluidly onto the dial like the SBGZ011 Snowflake and the SBGZ099 Majestic White Birch. But this is notably the first time we've seen Grand Seiko create an engraved platinum 44GS case instead of the more rounded Elegance case style. On the wrist, it wears well, measuring 40 millimeters in diameter, 9.6 millimeters thick, which is notably the same case thickness as the original 44GS case from 1967, and 46.2 millimeters across the wrist lug to lug. By modern standards, it certainly has a fan-favorite diameter, respectable slenderness, and compact enough lug-to-lug span that, all considered, flatters most wrists, whether smaller or larger. A signature characteristic of the modern 44GS case has been its shoulder blade lug profile, distortion-free, mirror-polished, and instantly eye-catching. You can see it right here in my wrist. So it is, in some respects, shocking to see a 44GS without that element. It really is that mirrored lug that best showcases what Zaratsu finishing really achieves, with people often resting their watch on top of a book or magazine to show the reflected text can be seen with zero distortion. Even when you visit the factory in Shinshu, the brand has a picture on the wall that demonstrates exactly that. But hey, look, I'm definitely not mad. The hand engraving performed on this case is absolutely exquisite. It may not be everyone's cup of tea aesthetically, but it's undeniably a work of art, something that could be showcased in any venerated museum without being out of place. This engraved masterpiece is not just distinct in its usage of a 44GS case, but also in its dial execution. And I don't just mean the new Majestic Waterfall pattern. New depth is introduced to the dial with an outer minutes track that is devoid of any engraved pattern, which makes the carved hashes for the minutes easier for the eye to discern. The same can be said for the carved Grand Seiko logo beneath the 12 o'clock hour indexes and the carved spring drive and 8-pointed star above the 6 o'clock hour index, which that 8-pointed star denotes that it's a special dial that makes use of 14-karat white gold for the hours and minutes hand, along with the full set of diamond cut hour indices. This is an interesting evolution, but one that I see why the brand did, as Grand Seiko heavily emphasizes legibility in its designs, and the brushed backdrop makes each of these elements far easier to read. This setup creates a chaptered center medallion effect for the dial, and the Majestic Waterfall pattern is certainly easy to get lost in. The swirled lines hand engraved into the dial are said to be inspired by a waterfall that can be found in the heart of a forest in Shinshu, right near the micro artist studio where this watch is made. Lines radiate out in different directions, creating a spotted effect as the dial is reoriented under light. When you see it in person, it's really quite mind-blowing. The Grand Seiko SBGZ011 is offered with two straps, both of which utilize the included platinum threefold clasp. The first keeps things tamer and more classic, a black crocodile leather strap that lets the case and dial be the focal point of the overall look. The other option is a leather strap that is, to be frank, as visually stimulating as the watch itself. This strap with metallic accents and a design inspired by the shimmer of splashing water is made by Kyoto Leather. I've never ever seen a strap like this. It's pretty cool. It's loud, but it's pretty cool. Though there are no quick release tabs on either of the 19mm width straps, there are drilled holes in the lugs that, at the very least, make it easier to remove the strap should you wish to do it yourself. That being said, you'd better have a steady hand when putting one of the straps on. I can only imagine the remorse someone would have if they scratched such a beautiful case. So it's probably best to visit your local watchmaker should you wish to swap between them. They'll be happy to assist you, trust me. Exhibited inside the SBGZ011 is the in-house manually wound spring drive caliber 9R02, Grand Seiko's take on the 7R14 used by Crador in watches like the H2. Those familiar with the H2 will recognize shared elements like the richly hairline brushed bridges and elegant mile-wide beveling performed on them. You also have the open-work barrel with a hand-finished bellflower motif, the emblem of the micro artist studio. However, the beveling near the glide wheel is more rounded than what you would find on the 7R14, and also adds the step of a sharp internal angle between two jewels that creates an image of a frog's eyes. Internal angles are the most difficult aspect of beveling to perform, so as much as I love my H2, I would argue the 9R02 finishing is even better than the 7R14's finishing. Totally subjective, of course, but man, I do love that internal angle. It's tasty. Other elements you wouldn't find on the Crador 7R14 are the golden hand-engraved micro artist placard and its 84 hours of power reserve compared to the 7R14's 60 hours of power reserve. This is due to the fact that Grand Seiko utilizes stacked twin barrels in its 9R02. Factor in the humbly quoted second per day accuracy, you would be hard-pressed to find a more beautiful and high-performing manually wound caliber than this. So look, though I believe we've far left behind the notion of Switzerland being the sole nation capable of producing very high-end watches, at least those of us, within the watch community, I firmly believe that watches like this SBGZ011 irrefutably prove that Grand Seiko can go toe-to-toe, head-to-head with the best watchmakers in the world. Between the beautiful, painstakingly hand-engraved case and dial, and on a platinum case no less, plus a spring drive caliber with unparalleled accuracy and a level of decoration that even Philippe Dufour would Leonardo DiCaprio Gatsby style raise his glass for. Grand Seiko's label of this watch as a masterpiece is absolutely appropriate, at least in my book. Incredibly, Grand Seiko is even limiting this design to 50 pieces, where most brands making a watch of this level wouldn't probably dare go beyond like 10 pieces. So, props to Grand Seiko that they can even make 50 of these. It's a Grail watch level creation in my book, 100%. But to answer the question I started with, the serenity and crisp white dial of the Crador H2 is probably a bit more my speed. But the fact I would even imagine a world where I would make a swap for this SBGZ011, I think speaks volumes. Though, realistically, a straight swap would never be on the table because, understandably, with all of its hand engraving, the SBGZ011 has a higher retail price. The Grand Seiko SBGZ011 Majestic Waterfall will be available beginning in July 2026 as a limited edition of 50 pieces and is priced at $84,000 US. Now, what I want to know from you guys in the comments, Grand Seiko has a pretty expansive catalog. What is your Grail Grand Seiko? If you could pick any Grand Seiko out of the entire catalog to buy, which one would it be? Let me know in the comments. Even I'd probably struggle to answer this question, but as one of the more recent Grand Seikos I've held in the metal, I think the SBGZ011 is certainly at the top of my list. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to the Time+Tide channel for all the latest watch news, reviews, and content. And as always, see you on the next one.